Hi, I'm Brent Farley with Farley Law. Today I want to talk to you about check fraud recovery. If you're like most financial institutions, over the past couple of years, we've seen a major increase in payments fraud and particularly in check fraud. So I want to talk about a couple of major problems we're seeing, a couple types of fraud, and I want to talk about a couple of solutions that we're seeing some of our bank clients take to help resolve the issue. So to get started out the gate, I want to talk about counterfeit checks versus altered checks. The reason you want to know the difference between those is the bank that takes the check as the bank of first deposit for an altered check is liable for the check, whereas typically the bank that pays the check for their account holder is liable for the counterfeit check. So what we're seeing a lot of is we'll see check fraud where somebody has gone to a post office box. They've lifted a check, maybe it's a rent check or maybe it's another recurring check, and that person will take the check and they'll either wash it and put their name on it, which makes it an altered check, and then they'll pass that check through the payment system, get paid, and try to disappear with the money before somebody catches on. Another really common thing that we're seeing is somebody will go lift the check in a similar way. They'll go print a new check on different stock with almost exactly the same information, but with the payee name being different. And so what happens is that some positive pay systems won't cover the payee name. And so the check goes through and it's not flagged and it's not caught and it's paid and the fraudster gets away with some money. So a couple of solutions that we're seeing in that area is encouraging people to use positive pay. We've seen different stances on that, from not very aggressive to very aggressive. So some of our banks are looking at it when there's fraud on an account, then they'll go and ask somebody to go ahead and use the positive pay system. Some banks are trying to push all of their business customers into the positive pay system. And some banks are going so far as to say, dear customer, if you're not going to use positive pay, we're going to require you to sign in an indemnity for certain cases of fraud to cover liability that will arise for the bank when they do pay the check. So the reason that we're pushing people into positive pay is if you have a positive pay system that covers the payee name, and hopefully your customers are using printed names on their checks, the positive pay will go through and control for the check number and the check amount and the payee name, and will flag the checks don't match what the depositor says, and it should shut down some of the fraud that we've just described. Second major problem we're seeing is particularly for large banks. We're seeing a very large volume of check fraud. And so if you're your bank and you're trying to approach US Bank, Bank of America, or JP Morgan Chase to get them to pay an altered check that they took as a bank first deposit, they are either not responding or they're taking forever to respond. And so a few things that we're seeing that seems to help. One is being persistent. Just recognize that the banks are seeing very, very large volumes of fraud. The second thing that seems to be very helpful if you want to resolve things before litigation is we try and find an attorney or somebody in the fraud department who handles those checks on a regular basis, and we'll take all the documentation and the package regarding the check, and we'll present it in a very clear way. So it's very clear to the banker or the attorney that their bank is liable for the check, and will ask for payment and make it clear that you're going to pay it now or you're going to pay the check and attorney's fees, if not additional costs that arise through suit. So those are just some of the things that we're seeing. Hopefully, I know pretty much everybody is seeing large volumes of check fraud. Hopefully you're not. I think you're few and far between if you are in that bucket. But if you are, hopefully this gives you some ideas of how you might address the issue and hopefully reduce the level of fraud. In my opinion, I don't think fraud ever completely goes away, but there's certainly a lot of things that you can do to reduce it. Happy to visit with you if you'd like to talk about that issue. Thanks.